Have you ever watched a car crash in slow motion? Because that is exactly what it felt like watching the second set of the Linz Open round of 16 this week. Imagine this. Austrian clay, a packed crowd holding its collective breath, and a brilliant young star from the Philippines standing literally one game away from knocking out a Grand Slam champion. 5 games to 1 up in the second set. The match was basically over. Everyone watching knew it. The commentators knew it. The fans knew it. And then, somehow, inexplicably, it wasn't. What is up, my beautiful tennis fanatics? I'm Ariana, and welcome back to the Courtside Zone, the only place where we serve the hottest takes, the deepest dives, and the unvarnished truth about everything happening on the WTA and ATP tours. If you're new here, buckle up because today's story is a wild one. What happened in that fateful matchup between Alexandra Eala and Jelena Ostapenko became one of the most fiercely debated, heavily scrutinized, and outright chaotic moments of the 2026 WTA season. And honestly, it's not always for the right reasons. Because somewhere between that massive 5-1 lead and the final straight set scoreline, the internet collectively decided that something shady went down. The timeline was flooded with allegations that Ostapenko cheated, that she used a dirty psychological trick to illegally steal the match from a teenager. And look, I completely get it. When you watch a lead that massive disappear in real time, your brain desperately searches for an explanation that makes sense. You want a villain. You want a reason. But my personal opinion? The truth, the actual uncomfortable truth of what happened on that clay court is so much more fascinating and complex than any conspiracy theory you'll read in a comment section. So, grab your snacks and get comfortable, because we are going to break down exactly what happened, why the internet got it wrong, and what this agonizing loss really means for the future of Alexandra Eala. This story deserves to be told properly. First, to truly understand the weight of this match, you have to understand who Alexandra Eala actually is and the immense pressure she carries on her shoulders. We are talking about a young phenom who has basically been carrying the hopes of Philippine tennis for years. She trained at the legendary Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. She grew up building her game on clay, developing this incredibly heavy, left-handed topspin that makes her an absolute nightmare for traditional, flat-hitting opponents. Alex doesn't play like most players her age. She isn't just out there wildly swinging for the fences and hoping for the best. She's patient. She's tactically brilliant. She understands court geometry better than players 10 years older than her, and she usually has this incredible, ice-cold ability to stay calm in big moments. And let's not forget the context coming into this match in Austria. Eala actually held a 2-0 head-to-head record against Ostapenko. She beat the Latvian star last year at the Miami Open and then again at Eastbourne. So, when Ostapenko looked at the Linz Open draw, she knew exactly the kind of danger she was facing. She even admitted in her post-match interview that she knew it was going to be an incredibly tough fight. Against Ostapenko, Eala came out in the first set playing nearly perfect tennis. Think about that for a second. Jelena Ostapenko, a woman who won Roland Garros by basically hitting the absolute cover off the ball at every possible opportunity, was being completely outmaneuvered. Alex was dragging her wide, controlling the rallies, and forcing Ostapenko into awkward, defensive positions where her flat, aggressive striking couldn't do any damage. Eala brilliantly built a 4-2 lead, and everything looked like it was going flawlessly to plan. And then, Ostapenko just woke up. That's really the only way I can describe it. Suddenly, the Latvian powerhouse started finding her returns. The winners started flying off her racket like lasers. She hit 19 winners in that opening set alone, despite racking up unforced errors. Before Alex or anyone watching could really process the momentum shift, Ostapenko had rattled off 4 straight games, completely flipping the script to take the first set 6-4. Now, let's be real. A lot of players, especially young players, would totally crumble after something like that. You outplay a top-tier Grand Slam champion for the better part of a set. You follow your game plan perfectly, and then she just violently rips it away from you in the blink of an eye. That's a psychologically brutal thing to experience. But Alex didn't fold. Not even close. She came back out in the second set with this quiet, focused, terrifyingly determined energy. She broke Ostapenko's serve. Then she held. Then she broke it again. She was barely dropping points. In fact, in the first 4 games of that second set, Eala only dropped 6 points total. She was making Ostapenko work for absolutely everything, grinding down that famously inconsistent serve and exposing every flaw in the Latvian's movement on the red clay. Slowly, steadily, she built a lead that felt absolutely bulletproof, 5-1. She even had a set point in the 7th game. The Austrian crowd was buzzing. The Filipina fans watching the live streams were already celebrating in the chat, dropping flag emojis and getting ready for a third set. You could physically feel the momentum locking into place. Alex looked fully, undeniably in control of where this match was going. And this is the exact moment everything changed. And this is also the exact moment the internet went completely off the rails. Down 5-1, staring down the very real possibility of losing the set and being forced into a grueling decider, Ostapenko got into a heated, explosive argument with someone in the crowd. This wasn't a quick glance or a subtle shake of the head. This was a full, visible, emotionally charged confrontation. She stopped the flow of the match. She complained to the chair umpire about a fan hindrance, gesturing wildly, demanding that the heckler be dealt with. It completely halted the rhythm of play and had everyone watching wondering what on earth was going on. From the outside, especially if you were watching a grainy stream on your phone or a laptop and couldn't hear exactly what the fan was saying, it looked incredibly suspicious. It looked like a veteran player using a moment of manufactured chaos to deliberately disrupt her younger opponent's rhythm. And boom, that's where the cheating narrative was born. People online immediately started posting that she manufactured the whole thing. The hot takes were flying. Ostapenko faked the disturbance to get a breather. She's using gamesmanship to break Alex's momentum at the exact moment it mattered most. She should be penalized for cheating. I want to be completely direct with you guys here. That is not what happened. There is zero evidence of any illegal tactic. There was no phantom injury timeout, no deliberate rule bending, no malicious master plan to cheat a 19-year-old out of a victory. What there is evidence of is something far more interesting and, honestly, far more terrifying from a tennis psychology perspective. That confrontation with the crowd didn't break Ostapenko's focus. It ignited her. See, if you follow the WTA Tour, you know that Jelena Ostapenko is not a normal competitor. She is one of the most emotionally volatile, unpredictably dangerous players to ever pick up a racket. She plays better when she's angry. And I don't mean slightly better. I mean dramatically, frighteningly better. When she has something to channel, some external force pushing against her, whether it's a bad line call, a frustrating opponent, or a mouthy fan in the front row, she doesn't retreat into her shell. She attacks. She thrives in the absolute mud of a chaotic match. And in that moment, surrounded by a murmuring crowd, down 5-1, with her tournament life on the line, something dangerous clicked inside her brain. The misfiring stopped. The double faults vanished. And what emerged from the sidelines in those final games of the second set was a woman who genuinely looked like a completely different player wearing the same clothes. She stepped inside the baseline. Not just a little bit. A meter, sometimes 2 meters inside the court, and she started taking Eala's heavy topspin ball ridiculously early. She was hitting it flat and hard into the absolute deepest corners of the court with almost zero margin for error. The speed at which she was doing this gave Alex absolutely no time to breathe. No time to reset her feet, no time to get into a stable position, no time to set up one of those defensive slices that had worked so brilliantly earlier in the match. Ostapenko was playing with this terrifying, razor-sharp precision, looking like someone who had suddenly stopped caring about making mistakes and started caring only about total destruction. 6 consecutive games. That's what it took. From 5-1 down, with her back firmly pressed against the wall, Jelena Ostapenko won 6 straight games to close out the second set 7-5, ending the match in 1 hour and 43 minutes. When you just read that as a stat on a screen, 6 games in a row from 5-1 down, it almost doesn't feel real. It sounds like a glitch in a video game, but it happened live in front of everyone. And the people watching it could barely believe what they were seeing. Ostapenko herself even said after the match, "I told myself I would fight until the end of the set. I just tried to play my game and not give her many opportunities." And boy, did she ever. Now, here's where I want to slow down, because this is the part of the story that actually matters most for Eala's future. The drama is fun, the comeback is historic, but we need to talk about the tennis. Because this loss isn't a tragedy for Alex. It's an education. It is a brutal, expensive, heartbreaking, yet totally invaluable education that very few players get to experience this early in their careers. Alex proved something absolutely enormous in this match. She proved she can build a brilliant tactical game plan against a Grand Slam champion and execute it perfectly under pressure. She proved her top spin and court geometry can completely dismantle one of the most aggressive baseliners on the planet. She proved she can absorb the shock of losing a heart-wrenching first set and come back mentally stronger to dominate the start of the second. Guys, that is not a small thing. That is actually remarkable for someone her age. But there is a gap. And that gap showed itself glaringly, painfully clearly at 5-1. The gap is the finishing instinct. It's that cold, almost ruthless ability to sense when an opponent is broken and immediately, without a single ounce of hesitation, end the match. The greats of our sport, the ones who collect Grand Slam trophies rather than just compete for them, they do not wait for their opponents to surrender. When a champion has someone down 5-1 in the second set, they go straight for the throat. They serve bigger. They hit cleaner. They turn up the physical and emotional pressure to a level that makes recovery psychologically impossible for the person on the other side of the net. Alex, in those final, frantic moments of that second set, started playing to not lose rather than playing to win. And trust me, there is a massive difference. Elite tennis exposes that difference every single time. As the pressure mounted and Ostapenko started firing, Alex retreated. She relied on her defensive slices to just keep the ball in play. She waited for Ostapenko to make errors rather than actively stepping in and forcing those errors herself. And against a player like Ostapenko, a player who can and will absolutely destroy you the exact second you give her any breathing room, that passive approach is incredibly dangerous. This is not a criticism of Alex as a person or even as a competitor. She fought. She absolutely fought her heart out. But fighting to stay in a point and possessing the cold-blooded finishing instinct to kill a match are two completely different skills. And the finishing instinct is something she now knows, deep in her bones, that she needs to develop. This is why I get so heated about the cheating narrative surrounding this match. It is, frankly, a massive disservice to everyone involved. It's a disservice to Elena Ostapenko because it tries to erase one of the most impressive, clutch psychological comebacks you will ever see in a WTA event. A 5-1 second set deficit with the momentum completely against you is the kind of hole most players mentally tap out of. They start thinking about their post-match meal. Ostapenko climbed out of that hole in under half an hour. That resilience deserves to be acknowledged and respected, not buried under a mountain of salty conspiracy theories. And more importantly, the cheating narrative is a disservice to Eala. Why? Because it takes away the real lesson. If you tell a 19-year-old that she only lost because her opponent cheated, you rob her of the opportunity to grow. The lesson here isn't that Alex was robbed. The lesson is that she was good enough to build a 5-1 lead against a Grand Slam champion on a tough surface, but she is not yet ruthless enough to close the door. That second part? That is 100% fixable. The fact that she was even in that position, on a surface where Ostapenko's power is genuinely dangerous, in a round of 16 at a serious WTA 500 event, tells you absolutely everything you need to know about where Eala's career is heading. The Austrian clay has a funny way of revealing things about a player's character. It reveals who can handle the physical grind, who can handle the suffocating pressure, who can rise when the moment demands it, and who still has a few steps left to climb. On that day in Linz, Ostapenko showed the entire tour that she is still capable of moments of terrifying, untouchable brilliance, even when everything seems entirely lost. And Alex showed the tour that she absolutely belongs at this level. Her game is developed enough to compete with, and frankly scare, the most established names in the sport. The only thing separating her from turning these heartbreaking losses into milestone victories is the killer instinct. And that only comes with experience, time, and unfortunately, a few agonizing defeats just like this one. I guarantee you her coaching team has watched this match back multiple times already. And what they're looking for, what they absolutely have to address in their training blocks, is how she approaches these match-closing situations. It's not just about the tactics, because frankly, her tactics were largely correct for 80% of the match. It's about the mental framework. It's the willingness to shift gears from just controlling the rally to actively, purposefully terminating the point. That's the piece of the puzzle that needs sharpening.